Hello, and welcome to my very first YouTube video. Um, what I wanted to talk about today is one of my favorite new knives, the Bradford Guardian 3.2. There's not a lot on YouTube about it, and I'm a big fan of the brand, as you'll see it here in a moment. And I decided to change from my everyday carry on my belt of the 3.5 down to the 3.2 since they did a sprint run in Magnacut steel. Now, if you're not familiar with Magnacut steel, it's not as tough as 3V, and it doesn't hold an edge like Rex 45 or something similar. But what it does do is it's very balanced across edge retention, stainlessness, and toughness. And edge retention is just how many cuts it can make before it goes dull. Toughness in a small knife really just affects whether or not it's going to chip or shatter in a glass-like fashion along the edge, or if it would tend to bend and soften and micro-roll, which is more of something that I'm looking for rather than chips. Chips like in M390 are really annoying to repair. So if I'm going to be out in the woods for a week or two, I'd rather have something that I can field sharpen reliably without developing a chip. Some people will say that, well, I've never had M390 chip. I have, and it was on several small knives that I was using a little harder than they should have been, which most people would term as abuse. But, if it's the tool you have on you, it's the tool you have on you. So, this is the Bradford 3.2 in Magnacut. Show you the front and the back side here. And the cutting edge is right at 3 inches long. The overall blade length is 3.5 inches. The other examples of their small collection that I'm going to show you have the exact same dimensions for the blade itself. Now, the handles are where things change. I don't have any of the 2D handles because, as you'll see, I wear XL or 2XL gloves, big hands, and the 2D handles don't give me enough meat to grip onto to use it comfortably for any length of time. These 3D contoured handles do. The ones I picked for this, they have a huge selection, but I chose the new burlap micarta. It probably won't look that way for very long. It'll develop patina, stains, oil, etc. But it's pretty impervious to just about everything. Now, one nice thing about the Bradford brand is that their factory edges are just extraordinary. This one has not been sharpened by me at all. We'll do a cut test later when we go back inside. I forgot to bring the magazine paper. But all I've done is stropped this edge, maybe 3 or 4 passes each side with 5-micron diamond paste on leather. I'll show you one of my small strops here. So my coarse side is the diamond paste, and my fine side is just the regular green chromium oxide material. And when I strop, you'll see endless iterations of how people do this. Most people use multiple fingers on the back edge of the blade to maintain pressure and flip back and forth. You need to develop an understanding of the angle you're working with, and I took somebody else's tip and used this cheap little angle guide from Amazon that I verified to figure out that for me, about a 17-degree edge is right at the edge of my thumbnail. So I can reliably keep it within a half a degree or so when I'm stropping. And the way that I do it these days is one finger along the entire edge. Make sure that you found it, and then I start tip first at about a 45-degree angle and then go to straight as I get to the edge. If you're doing it this way, be careful when you flip the knife over so you don't cut your own finger. And hopefully that is showing up, but it is a very, very fine edge. Yeah. So, for comparison, that is the Guardian 3.2. This is the standard 3, which, if you'll notice, even though the blade length is exactly the same, cutting length and blade, the handles aren't quite the same. Let me pull out another more apples to apples comparison example here. This is the original one that I started with years ago. This one is an M390, and like I said, I did get some microchips on it when I went to do something a little harder with it. This has the Nimbus finish, which I wish they offered that 3.2 in. I love it. It's absolutely beautiful. But if we put these tip to tip, as best as I can arrange it, there does seem to be a little bit more in the handle length, which to me makes a big, big difference. I really can't get a 4-finger grip on the original 3. It's not uncomfortable, but I am in quite a bit of danger with some pressure of nicking that sharp edge on the choil. Now, just for comparison, this is the 3.5, which has been my everyday carry for about 2 years. This one's also in Magnacut. Absolutely adore that steel since it came out. This one has what I would consider a perfect small knife handle. The choil is protected. I cannot nick myself. I've got a full 4-finger grip, and it's got a really great swell to it. And you'll notice that the shape is entirely different from the 3.2 and 3 series. This one started out with high gloss polish. I'm not sure how well the camera's picking that up, but you can see that this one's been very, very, very well used. This one's been sharpened a few times now, but not that often. It really does hold an edge quite well. Now, just for size comparison, so you can see the difference, this is my Guardian 4.5 in Magnacut, and it is a monster compared to any of these 3 little guys. I would never EDC that except out here in the woods, on a pack, on my belt, Alta clip, something like that. I'm not going to have that on my person day-to-day life. These little guys are perfect. This one's pushing the envelope. It's 33% heavier than the 3.2. That's my new EDC. And significantly longer. You can see it looks to be about an inch. I didn't bring a measuring tape. But I use it in cross draw on the front of my stomach on my belt. So my right hand can cross over and pull it out and put it back in. That extra inch and that extra weight really makes it more noticeable in your daily life. This one I can totally forget about. Never notice it. This one, you know it's there, especially when you fold your body over and feel the sheath pushing in, because I do like to use the Kydex sheaths. This is the Bradford one that they have available. It's got that nice little thumb ramp to push off of. And for my original, this was the Armitage Architect sheath that I put an ulti-clip on so I could make it an in-pocket carry. But honestly, this little guy doesn't get used very much anymore. You can see it was well loved for quite some time, but I moved on from it because of that sharp little choil area. I nicked myself a couple of times on it. The Wharncliffe is not my favorite style. This actually, shamefully, for such a nice knife, mostly sits in the kitchen area and gets used to break down cardboard, which is it's such overkill for that. But I do like it very much. Put that one away. And the 3.5, I love this one to death. I would absolutely be EDCing this one when I'm in the woods in that cross draw position. But day-to-day life under my shirt, because I don't tuck shirts. I mostly wear flannels and loose clothes. So no one ever notices it, but I notice it. So day-to-day, I'm not going to be wearing this one anymore. It will go to camp, kayak, hiking, etc. And that's the sheath that I use for that one, which is, again, the Bradford Kydex that I added these pull the dot straps to. Nice and secure. They've never come loose on me. Chicago screws on the inside. I don't even have them Loctited, and they've been just fine. And we'll put away the Guardian 4.5. Absolutely love this knife. This one feels like it was built for me. That hourglass swell that they do is one of the reasons they're my favorite brand. Their fit and finish is perfect to me. Some people complain about the water jet marks that you can see on the spine. That doesn't bother me in the least. And they are the nicest people to work with. I have a Guardian 4 from about 10 years ago in CPM 3V, and that one is absolutely fantastic. You can baton with that, and when I say baton, I'm talking pieces like 2 inches across at most. I'd use a hatchet to baton with well before using my small knife. But for little kindling, 2 inches or smaller, an inch, getting down towards your final stage of starting a fire, the 4 is just great in 3V, and it takes no damage, as long as you're aware of what you're doing. But I did run into a problem with it on an extended kayaking trip where it was getting wet and staying wet all day, and it did develop some little beginning rust blooms, even though I'd coated it with ballistol, which is my usual light protectant, because it is food safe. So if you're out in the woods, you can wipe down your knife with ballistol, keep it protected, clean it off, and not have to worry about later on if you dry it off on a piece of cloth or whatever and need to process some food. But the 3.2 does give me almost a 4-finger grip with my finger safely behind that protected choil. It's got these little bits of jimping up there. They're very, very grippy. On the 4.5, they're wider and softer and don't put as much pressure on the thumb. The 3.2, if you're doing something hard, like that you really need to push through. And this is very sharp. I keep all of mine at about a 17-degree edge. That's about where they come from the factory. They said they aim for somewhere between 16 and 18 degrees, so an average of about 17. The jimping up here does get a little irritating if you're not wearing gloves and you really need to push. Now, I don't generally need to push very hard on whatever I'm cutting, if it's sharp, but every once in a while you'll bind up on something and you need to dig in there, and that will irritate your fingers after a few minutes. But other than that, this is my new EDC for daily carry. It's in the Magnacut steel, 3 inches of blade length, a handle that I can work with for lighter tasks, and typically I usually have my my Hogue Deca in Magnacut that I added. I took the blade off of the plastic handles and added some titanium scales, which made it into no longer an ultralight knife, but a very thin, slicey, flat grind profile that I really enjoy. And the action still works well. And, it looks classy, but the Guardian 3.2 I usually keep for dirty and tougher jobs, and this would be the one that I would use for more delicate stuff, just in my pocket. That is another point I wanted to bring up that I had completely forgotten about. When I got my 3.5, the only finish available on that run was this high gloss, which I do not care for. I could sandpaper it up, whatnot, but it's already going away slowly from just use. But the other option that they like to do is a saber grind, where you've got this thicker spine, and I believe this is where most of the weight difference between the 3.5 and the 3.2 is. I mean, some of it's clearly going to be in the handle, but some of it is also steel because there's more of it on the 3.5, even though they have the exact same dimensions. This one I was able to get in a full height flat grind and a stone wash, which is much more to my taste. I wish it came in the Nimbus, that darkened finish from the original. I love that finish. It's just beautiful. But you can't always get exactly what you want. But anyway, the full height flat grind is my favorite because, yes, if you were doing food prep with it, which I only do when needed, it's not my go-to in the kitchen or anything, but yes, this will split and not stick with food processing quite as much, but I feel like the full height flat always ends up thinner behind the edge than the saber grinds do. There's just less steel behind the edge, and they feel to me like they will take a sharper final apex. I could be wrong on that. That's just my opinion, but I like the way it feels in daily use for actual cutting, more so than I do with the saber grind. Now, would I feel more confident that this one, even though they're the same steel and Magnacut, that I could use this one a little harder with less worry of damage? Yes, I do. I feel like there's more mass to it, that it's better supported behind the edge, and that it can take more. But those situations don't generally come up if I have an ability to plan for what I'm going to be doing. I will have the appropriate tools with me. I'll have a hatchet and a saw for processing, medium-sized wood. Um, I'll have the Tarava Scrama if I don't want to be burdened with a full-size hatchet and the weight of it to baton through, because that one's just a tough little tank of a thing. These are not made for that. These are your EDC and companion size knives. But if I were pressed to use one for that sort of thing, I would definitely prefer to have the 3.5 with me than this guy. So in the woods, on camping trips, on kayaking, this one's probably going to stay behind. EDC is where it's going to live. This would be my daily carry in that sort of environment, just in case. Because equipment gets lost, equipment gets damaged. Two is one is none. Anyway, I hadn't seen much content about the Guardian 3.2 on YouTube, so I thought I would make my own video. This is my first one, so please be kind. Just an absolutely beautiful small companion knife. Love it to death. And in the next segment, I will show some cutting performance. This one, again, will be showcasing, other than a bit of stropping, exactly how good their sharpening from the factory is. This one's been resharpened by myself a number of times, and if we were on a 1 to 5 scale of sharpening skills, I've been working on it for 10 years. I still feel like I'm learning and correcting myself constantly. But if 1 was completely incompetent and 5 was expert, I would rate myself at a 4, very good. Better than average, not expert. But I always get the results I'm looking for, so I'm happy with that. And I'm still learning after 10 years. Ugh. I feel like I can teach someone else to do it better than I can do it in about 2 hours. But there's nothing I can do about that. So anyway, in the next segment, we'll go on to cutting performance. And, for now, I'll see if I can find a small piece of wood to show you some feather sticking or something. Here we go. So, again, this is my edge. We can get some nice little curls there. This is not an ideal piece for this task. A little punky. And this is the as delivered from the factory, just a little stropping. Look at that bite. Gotta go shallower. That's another element of difference between the full height flat and the saber grind, is that I feel like if you compare the spines, that the tip on the 3.2 in full height flat is significantly less sturdy than the 3.5 or 3.2 in full height flat is more delicate and less sturdy than the 3.5 in full height saber grind, which could be an advantage or a disadvantage. I never use the tip for stabbing into things. It usually just begins my cut. So a delicate tip is more of a benefit to me in my actual usage than a really sturdy, tough tip. I have yet to break the tip off of a knife, but this is just more my preference. So anyway, that's all I had for today, is just showcasing the 3.2 in Magnacut, which I believe you can still get them right now from bradfordknives.com. I am not, of course, sponsored in any way, and these are all ones that I've purchased over the years. Not necessarily because I needed them, but because I really like them, to be perfectly honest. But they all do get used. None of them stay in a drawer out of the sight of the light for their entire lives. They all get pressed into service. So, great company, great knives. They fit my hand just about ideally. I've tried so many other brands over the years. Benchmade Bushcrafter was my first big outdoor knife. Moras, which I like. They do fit well. They work well. They're inexpensive, but steel choices are limiting for me. And Bark Rivers I've tried. I love the convex grind on those, but they're harder for me to field sharpen if I'm going to be out for a few weeks and need to touch them up. You can strop them on leather, no problem, but if you actually needed to sharpen them, I'd need a block with something soft on it and some leather, or sandpaper rather. So these are my general go-to favorite brand, and I wanted to get a video out there on the 3.2. So thanks for watching, and that's all for now.